Welcome to One Stop Co-op Shop and the first episode of Shelf Life. I'm Michael Kelly, and just to explain what the heck I'm doing here, in the survey which so many of you filled out, thank you so much for your support, a lot of you suggested different little segments and features we could have on the show. One of the most popular was for me to look back at games I've covered in the past and let you know which ones I still had on my shelves and which ones I had sold or traded or given away. And our Patreon members voted that this video is the one they wanted to see first, so thanks everybody. In this episode we're going to look at the first 10 games I ever covered with the One Stop Co-op Shop. Although at that point, back in 2017, it was the Co-op Cast podcast. I hadn't joined the YouTube channel yet. If you like the segment, let me know, and I'll try to work it in every month or so to keep you up to date with which games I'm keeping and letting go. Without further ado, let's get to the games. The first game on this list, a hugely successful deck builder that was also featured on the second episode of our podcast ever back in June of 2017, Aeons End. So do I still have it in my collection? Yes, I do. Now, Aeons End is a weird one because what you just saw is not the full core game. Instead, it's what was left after Peter changed his original core game and updated it with the War Eternal content. So I'm missing some boards, some components, but it lets me play the game generally. Next is one of two heavy-hitting dungeon crawlers on this list, Sword and Sworcery. Is it still on the shelf? Nope! Although I enjoyed Sword and Sworcery at first, it ended up being a bit of a letdown, especially compared to its predecessor, Galaxy Defenders. While Galaxy Defenders had great tactical combat, Sword and Sworcery always felt a little bit too controlled and limited because of the area-based movement. Additionally, the odd story that threw in unnecessary pop culture references never really gelled with me, so I traded it away pretty quickly. Number 3 is a game that I may or may not have debated about several times, Arkham Horror the card game. Alright, come on, y'all can guess this one. Yeah, it's still here. In fact, if I'm being honest, this is my whole collection for Arkham Horror the card game. Arkham Horror remains my number 1 co-op and probably number 1 game overall. I absolutely love it. The fail-forward nature of the campaign, the incredible diversity of characters you can try out and decks you can build, all of it is awesome. This game is just amazing, and I don't know if I'll ever change my mind about that. Next is a game based on one of my favorite book series of all time, the Dresden Files Cooperative card game. I love the books. Did I keep the game? No. There's nothing wrong with the Dresden Files Cooperative card game. In some ways, I think it's sort of an upgraded Hanabi, but it loses the tension of Hanabi and also isn't as simple to teach people and play quickly. Also, this is one of those cases where they came out with an app that works really well, so I didn't see much need, especially playing solo, to still have the card game around. Sorry, Jim Butcher. Next is a game I hoped would make me feel like I was living out my own Star Trek episode, The Captain is Dead. Steve on the podcast has been a pretty vocal fan of The Captain is Dead. How about me? Not so much. At least for the core game, because I haven't played the standalone expansion, this felt like it didn't have enough variety, it got very stale very quickly, and it didn't actually have as much story as I was hoping to give me that Star Trek vibe, so I had to get rid of it. Number 6 is the only game to this date that I gave 5 pros to in a 5 and 5 review, Spirit Island. So is it still on the shelf? You betcha. Spirit Island is definitely up there as one of my top games. An amazing, unique theme, incredible puzzle-based gameplay, great true solo with only one spirit or multiple, and I can't go without mentioning how different and interesting and fun the spirits are to play around with. I have Spirit Island, I have all the promos, I have Branch and Claw, I kickstarted the next expansion, I'm all in for the Spirit Island experience. Number 7 is my personal favorite entry in the Legendary series of games, the Alien version of Legendary Encounters. So did this game survive the alien attack? It was nuked from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. I liked the Alien version of Legendary Encounters for a really long time. I got a ton of value out of that game, played it so much solo and cooperative. But in the end, I just felt that the deck building itself wasn't as interesting as a lot of other deck building games. And also, I just played those campaigns so many times into the dirt, there wasn't really anything new to see story or narrative-wise. Number 8 is one of the heaviest hitters in the cooperative field of all, Gloom Haven. So Gloom Haven, greatest co-op ever. Do I have it? No. Don't hurt me for that. I love Gloom Haven's gameplay, but with my current life, having 2 kids, doing videos and podcasts all the time, designing games myself, I had no time whatsoever to invest in such a huge campaign. Now, to be completely honest, if no one else I knew had the game, I probably would still own it. But 2 different people in my regular game group have it and said I can borrow it whenever I want, so it didn't seem to make much sense with me having no time to play it to keep it on my shelves when I needed room for other games. Number 9, my favorite game to play with my son when we go to the beach, Forbidden Island. But is it still on the shelf? Oh yes it is. Even though it's so much simpler than Pandemic and its other iterations, nothing matches the tension of that island slowly disappearing and you having fewer and fewer movement options and just play options in general available to you. And rounding out what I hope is the first of many lists like this, Escape, the Curse of the Temple. So are we going to end on a high note or a low note? Well, in this case, I guess a very big high note. Escape is a funny one in that I used to own the basic core game and I got tired of it and sold it. But then after we did the podcast episode on it, I convinced myself that I wanted to play it again, and I tracked down the second edition of the big box. While the base game did get stale eventually, adding in elements from the big box, especially the quest, which I just adore and I think really transformed the game, made it have a new life for me. Well, that's it. 5 out of 10, 50% on our first go-round. If you like this little special feature, please let me know so I keep on doing them. And thank you so much again to the people who filled out our survey, and especially our Patreon supporters. You're the reason this video happened. Good gaming, everyone, and I'll see you at the next stop.